Okay, today I would like to talk about why I believe Jesus Olivares is not lying about being natural. And I'm going to take this from a bit of a mathematical perspective because that's my background. So let's get into some background information about Jesus and some of the controversy going on. So March 25th, 2023, at the 2023 IPF Sheffield Powerlifting Championships, Jesus Olivares of the USA totaled 1,152.5 kilos in sleeves, breaking the previous world record held by Daniel Bell by a whopping 25 kilograms, which is a very large margin. He squatted 470 kilograms, he bench pressed 272.5 kilograms, and he deadlifted 410 kilograms at 178.2 kilos body weight at an age of 24 years old at the time. And he was also drug tested, as all the competitors at the event and in the IPF in general were. So this was an exceptional performance in many regards. Some of the statistics here. He's the first man to ever total 2,500 pounds or more in sleeves, tested or not. He's the youngest man to hold the all-time world record total, and possibly the only or maybe one of the few drug-tested men to hold the all-time world record total. Actually, the last one was Ray. So youngest man to ever hold the all-time world record total. He's the fifth and youngest man to squat over 1,000 pounds in sleeves. He has the heaviest stiff bar deadlift ever performed in powerlifting, at least in the IPF. He has the heaviest raw subtotal ever performed. And that was actually a record that was held for quite a number of years by Jeza Uepa. Not a lot of people know that. He's the second man to squat over 1,000 pounds in sleeves and deadlift over 900 pounds in the same meet, the first being Daniel Bell. He's the third man to bench over 600 pounds and deadlift over 900 pounds in the same meet, the first being Daniel Bell and the second being John Hack. And overall, he has the 18th highest male sleeves dots, and that becomes fifth if you reduce it to drug tested. So an exceptional performance in many, many regards. So, of course, this amazing performance really caused some controversy, with some people saying that him claiming to be natural was bullshit and that he was actually taking steroids. So we're going to get into some reasons why you may or may not think that. Reasons why you may or may not think he's natural. So reasons why you might think he's natural are, first of all, because he says so, doesn't he look so innocent? And also, there's these things called outliers. You'll occasionally get some extreme events. You'll have some truly exceptional athletes. That just happens. Reasons why not. In case you didn't know, he's really freaking strong. This is a picture of his first 1,000-pound squat. But simultaneously, he's also very young. And a lot of people are thinking, 25 or 24 years old, that's not a lot of time to attain 1,000-pound squat. And so anyway, here's this picture of him with a binky, like a baby. But anyway, so those are some reasons why you may think he's not natural. So to discuss this a little bit further, let's dig into the mathematics of the issue and see what we can come up with there. So the first basic principle that we want to talk about is outliers. So, for instance, let's say you're a student in high school and you like playing basketball. Well, the chances that you're going to make it to the NBA, even if you're pretty good at basketball, are very small. However, if you take all of the high school athletes in Virginia, in the state of Virginia, the chances that one of those guys is going to make it to the NBA this year are, pretty appreciable. They're pretty high. So the point is that the more observations that you make, the higher the probability is that at least one of them will be highly exceptional. So the more young teenagers, that you sample, the higher the probability that at least one of them will make it to the NBA. So we can quantify this kind of thing with distributions. So lots of things in nature are normally distributed due to this thing called the central limit theorem that you can look up. And we have this normal distribution curve, colloquially known as the bell curve. The average is known as the mean, and the standard deviation is a measure of how spread apart the data is. So basically how different, individuals are on average in that population. The higher the standard deviation, the more extreme events that you're going to see. So, these are the definitions of what a probability density function and a cumulative distribution function are. So the probability density function, in essence, measures, to use the name, how densely the probability is clustered around some value. And the cumulative distribution function measures how the probability that your observed value will be less than some other value, say x. And it can be defined using this integral of your density function. The normal distribution are these certain forms here. This x of the thing squared is known as a Gaussian or Gaussian, whatever. And then we have this thing here called the error function. Math, whatever. Look it up in your own time. Not super relevant. So we can kind of quantify how likely certain outcomes are. So as a man, how likely is it that you'll be between certain height levels? Well, at least going off of USA data, the probability that a random man is between 5'7" and 6 foot is about 68%. The probability that a random man is 6 feet tall or greater is about 16%. And the probability that a random man is 6'4" or taller is about 1%. So not very common. So kind of a natural question that you might ask is, okay, I know the probabilities that one man is greater than 6'4", but if I get a group of 10 guys together, what's the probability that at least one of them will be 6'4" or taller? And what about if you get 100 men or 1,000 men? These are interesting questions, and we can answer them reasonably simply. So putting this into mathematical language, if x1 and xn are independent, that is, they don't affect each other, so your height has no effect on somebody else's height, and identically distributed, i.e. drawn from the same population of, say, American men, random variables, each having a cumulative distribution function f. So this, fancy math thing right here. So they're all distributed according to this distribution here, with a given mean of, in this case, about 5'9", and a standard deviation, in this case, of about 2.5 inches. What is the distribution of the max, the biggest of the of each of these 10 guys? So if you have 10 guys together, how tall can you expect the tallest one of them to be? So this is actually a fairly simple problem. The probability that the tallest guy is no taller than some height, say x, is the same as the probability that just all of the men are shorter than this height x. So it's the probability that x1 is less than or equal to x, and so on. So since each of these heights are independent, they don't affect each other, you can calculate the joint probabilities very simply, and so therefore the continuous distribution function, so the probability that the tallest guy is less than or equal to some height x, is just the cumulative distribution function of x raised to the nth power. So just the probability that each of the guys is less than or equal to x, shorter than x, and you just, multiply that by itself for however many men that you have. Equivalently, the probability that mn is at least x, so larger than x instead of smaller than, is just 1 minus whatever the probability is that it's smaller. So using a concrete example here, if you get 10 guys together, the probability that all 10 of them are shorter than 6'4" is about 96%. Equivalently, if you get 10 men together, the probability that at least one of them is 6'4" or taller is 4%. So basically what this means is if your family is mostly pretty average sized, you're a fairly average sized family, you're not, Swedish or something. If you were to go to a family, a small family get together, with, maybe a couple of your uncles or whoever, and all you guys were average size, except for that one uncle who's just like 6'6" for no reason. Yeah, it's weird. But if you go to a movie theater, with 100 guys there, and you see one guy who's 6'4", you're not really gonna be that surprised. You're gonna be like, oh, okay, it's a pretty everyday thing. And in that case, out of 100 guys, the probability that at least one of them is 6'4" or taller is about 31%. So pretty likely. So the upshot of this is that we can actually do this same kind of analysis with powerlifting data too, because we have pretty good data on the sport of powerlifting from openpowerlifting.org, where they have meticulous documentation of powerlifting competition data dating all the way back to 1964. So here is a histogram of male raw totals, and we can see that, most guys are in this kind of 500 to 600 kilogram range. So kind of in between 1,100 and about 1,280 pounds. Most guys are in that range. I'm in that range. And we can see the frequency here. There are these weird spikes. Those are actually rather interesting. If you look directly up from, say, 600 kilograms, there's a big spike there because, if your subtotal is, for example, say, 340 kilograms or something, I'm just picking random numbers out of my head, then if you have the choice between setting your final deadlift at 257.5 kilos or 260 kilos, one of them is going to give you a total of 597.5, but the other one is going to give you an even total of 600 kilos. Most people are going to want to get that nice round number. So that's kind of why we see these spikes at these, 100 kilogram marks. And if you adjust the scale to read in pounds, you'd see spikes at the 1,000 pound, 1,100 pound, 1,200 pound. So let's see, 1,200 pounds is about 545 kilograms, and we can see that, there's a spike there. So that's the reason behind these spikes. But nevertheless, we can see that it's pretty well described by a bell curve. So we can repeat the same problem that we had before, but instead of using heights, we can just use powerlifting totals. So in 2022, the average male raw total was 549 kilograms, with a standard deviation of 120 kilograms. So therefore, if you get 10 powerlifters together, 10 male powerlifters together, the probability that at least one of them will have a total of 800 kilograms or more is about 17%. So about 1 in 6, not super likely. But if you get 100 male powerlifters together, so if you go to like a pretty sizable powerlifting meet, the probability that at least one of those guys will total over 800 kilograms is 84%. So that pretty much tracks. I went to my last powerlifting meet had something like, 30 or 40 guys there, and there was one guy who totaled 800 kilograms. So pretty much order of magnitude, it pretty much tracks. So what about Jesus, right? How exceptional is he? So in 2022, there were 1,221 recorded male raw totals in the super heavyweight class. So where the body weight of the male competitor was at least 140 kilograms, or not at least, greater than 140 kilograms. The average total among this field was 684 kilograms, with a standard deviation of 139 kilograms. So therefore, if you take 1,221 competitors from such a distribution and you ask, what is the probability that at least one of them will have a total at least 1,152.5 kilos, Jesus's total, that probability works out to be roughly 36%, which is fairly likely. Like, not more than likely, but reasonably likely, to the point where it's not really exceptional. And you might say, oh, but he's so young and he claims to be drug-free. Well, if you restrict the data set to male super heavyweight competitors who are under 25 years old and drug tested, there were 316 such entries in 2022 with an average total of 679 kilograms, virtually the same as the untested, or the net pool of competitors, because most powerlifters, even the ones competing in untested federations, are drug-free. The standard deviation was 141 kilograms. This puts the probability of at least one competitor out of 316 from such a distribution having a total of at least 1,152.5 kilograms at 11.2%, which is somewhat unlikely, but only about as unlikely as a random person being left-handed, right? If you meet some person off the street and they happen to be left-handed, it's like, oh, that's a little unusual, but you're not blown away by it. It's not like meeting a random person on the street and they turn out to be, a long-lost cousin, or they turn out to be a millionaire, or it's nowhere near that level of unlikely. It's like, meeting a random person, they happen to be left-handed. It's not that unlikely. So, in summary, in very large groups of people, a few of them will be exceptional. We can estimate how likely such extreme events are given the number of participants. And the upshot of this whole analysis is that there's just no compelling statistical evidence that Jesus is lying about being natural. This would only be a likely occurrence if the vast majority of drug-tested powerlifters were also lying about their natural status, which is just unlikely, given the fact that there are separate competitions for tested and untested athletes anyway, the strict, federation-based, even legal penalties that come with cheating, and social penalties that come with cheating, and also the cost and dangers associated with performance-enhancing drugs. There's no real compelling evidence that Jesus is lying about being natural. So